Alright guys, the time is now for an early access showdown between the High Elves led by the new and improved TYRION and the Vampire Coast, who's going to be led by Count Noctilus. And essentially by new and improved, TYRION has basically just gotten a huge buff to his armor piercing values. And that was really kind of his issue in general. Same with like Wulfric and Archaon. I don't think Wulfric has been changed, and I don't think he needs to, because Wulfric does of course have slow and some very powerful abilities. But Archaon and TYRION definitely needed it. So as far as his stats go, if you go ahead and take a look at TYRION, he is juiced to the gills. 125 armor, he has 98 leadership, pretty much perfect, 77 melee attack, 72 melee defense. He is an absolute beast. But again, the problem in terms of him being the ultimate duelist, right, in one of the, I guess in the Warhammer universe, was that he had really low AP value. So even when he was fighting characters like Kolek and these big powerful duelist lords, he would be able to kind of match them in terms of his stats, but he really just wasn't hitting them that hard, simply because his AP was so low. But guys, I can tell you, I've been doing a lot of testing with TYRION. He is an absolute monster. He's probably one of the better picks actually against the Vampire Coast. He's very good at hunting down their lords, and you guys will hopefully get a chance to see that in this game, but he is an incredibly powerful pick now. Here in the front line, we have 4 Spearmen. We got 4 Lothran Seaguard in the secondary line with these silver shields. Very important stuff. The Vampire Coast is very exceptional at taking out like big targets, right? They have powder units. They have a bunch of really cost-effective cannons, which are cheaper than Empire Great Cannons, but it seems they perform like pretty much the exact same. So, going with like Dragon Princes and, Silver Helms and things like that, I don't really think you need to in this matchup. I think you just get an entire front line of Spearmen, a bunch of archers, and a couple supporting armor-piercing infantry here in the back. So in total, we have the White Lines. We do also have the Piermain Company, which are going to be a little bit of fun. And I figured, hey, we have TYRION on the ground. Maybe they'll end up fighting together, and that Guardian could be pertinent. And just 3 White Lines in the back, 4 Lothran Seaguard, 4 Spearmen, and 2 Illyrian Reavers on the flank. So don't really need to go too expensive. Just going to be trying to do some light disruption and have some fun. So for our caster, we do have High Magic. High Magic going to be very good here. Apotheosis for healing. Tempest is going to be great against Luther Harkin and Terrorgeists and Deck Droppers and things like that. And on top of that, Arcane Forging is always pretty good against vampires and very spell-heavy factions, which the Coast kind of is. So for the forces of my opponent, the Great Daub plays. He does have Fellbats, Fellbats, and Fellbats, so he's going to be causing some disruption on my archers. Not a bad choice. Entire front line is going to be zombie pirate gunnery mobs, although the slope might be a little bit tricky here, although it looks like they can get some decent fire downhill. But that's why we have Spearmen with shields, silver shields, I should say, here in the front line. So it's going to be a little bit tough for these guys. He does have Count Noctilus on foot. So Noctilus, pretty powerful, 45, 60, 430. Now TYRION can lay an absolute spanking on this guy. His stats are literally like twice as much melee attack. His melee defense is way better. But Noctilus does, of course, have access to magic. So he has the Drowned Dead, Invocation of Nahek. He does have Melkos. And it looks like Wraithstorm and the Moondial, which he can then summon more zombies with. So here in the secondary line, he's got zombie pirate deckhand mobs with polearms. Great choice against High Elves. They have armor piercing, they have anti-large, they just can hold for a long time with their quote-unquote good melee defense for zombie stats, and yeah, they just kind of let your guns do the thing. Here in the back, he's got 3 of the Carronades, so I think he was expecting a heavy cab build like, Dragon Princes and Silver Helms and maybe, or what are those guys called? The Fireborn, things like that. Fireborn could potentially be kind of fun here, but a little bit too risky, I think, with all the powder play here from the Vampire Coast. Here he does also have Rotting Prometheans. So Prometheans are actually a really good answer against Dragon Princes and Silver Helms and Reavers in general. They have huge armor, really good melee defense, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they do have charge defense. Let's go and check. Yeah, versus large. That's pretty cool. So you can just kind of brace and absorb cap charges, which is normally tough for the zombies to do in general. So the Promethean's definitely filling a nice niche. And he does have a unit we haven't really seen here in the early access. These are the Rotting Promethean RORs, the Lamprey's Revenge. So these guys, just better stats. They hit pretty hard. It looks like they do have the hand cannons on top, so they can definitely do some nice little burst damage. And on top of that, these bad boys do have regeneration. So they're going to be incredibly tough to kill. 63 melee defense, 120 armor is definitely no joke. So guys, without further ado, let's get this show on the road. So on the flank, the Fellbats did swoop in to kind of shut down my Reavers. I think he was trying to buy time to reposition the black spot, which are the ROR zombies. And I actually didn't notice that these guys are the anti-large variant of the handgunner. So they basically have bayonets at the end of their rifles, which is going to make it a little bit tough, and I don't think I noticed that. Granted, they're not braced for the charge, so we're going to get some pretty good damage in here, and hopefully Swiggity Swooty some of these guys. Reavers, of course, very powerful, but yeah, I made a big mistake. I mean, 110 zombies with anti-large, like pretty good combat stats in melee, that's going to be scary. But in the front line, the action is underway. The archers are going to be raining some fire on the zombie pirate gunnery mobs. TYRION is riding around looking for an opportunity to strike, and Fellbats in the back have attacked my Lothran Seaguard. So kind of exchanging fire here, but these zombie pirate gunnery mobs do have pretty short range. And the Spearmen got their shields up, they're ready to go, and hopefully the Spearmen should be able to kind of grind through these guys in the front. The gunner mobs have really bad stats. They have 7 melee defense, I think, so even the Spearmen are going to be like a high DPS unit against them. So if we look in the back, the White Lines are going to be advancing as well. So the White Lines, I brought those just in case he did go with like Depth Guard or things like that. I figured it would be very important. It looks like Count Noctilus is lurking somewhere nearby. He kind of disappeared into the tree somewhere. Tyrion's just going to be kind of engaging, looking for high value targets. And with his new armor-piercing stats, you can also kind of use them against like, these crabs in the back and things like that. So I do slip through with some of my Reavers. I was kind of like trying to put the moves on. I went up here, pulled the crabs up north, and then came back and under here. We're going to be charging into the cannons and the gunnery mobs and things like that. So this is going to be really nice. And even though these guys are probably forfeit, they're going to get taken out by the powder and just the pressure of the Vampire Coast here. And you can see Dob turns and just starts capping these guys. And I'm basically just riding from cannon to cannon, trying to knock those guys off and, get as much value as I can. So the black spot on the far side, his ROR handgunners, or handguns with the bayonets, were able to clean up my Reaver, so a bit of a mistake there. Now we're going to kind of take them apart with the Lothran Sea Guard. Same thing over here, and the white line should be advancing as well. So now we're in the main fight. You can see here that Count Noctilus has had an Arcane and Forging cast on him, which is going to add 30 seconds to all of his cooldowns. And here comes a fat, juicy Sunfang. So Sunfang's going to be going down here. That is, of course, Tyrion's sword. And look at the damage. It just absolutely roasts those zombie pirate deckhand mobs. It also gets these zombie pirate gunnery mobs and gets some great value. So now Noctilus and Tyrion are in a bit of a duel. Now Noctilus does have anti-large, but it's kind of hard to compare to Tyrion, who's now, I would say, one of the pinnacles of like dueling in this game. He's going to be really tough. He's incredibly fast. And even though Noctilus does have anti-large, he's fully surrounded by white lions. Tyrion has feint and riposte, so he literally has 103 melee attack, 99 melee defense. He gets a physical resist, and Noctilus is just getting absolutely spanked by Tyrion. And it looks like he does try and summon some troops here. He tries to summon some zombie pirate deckhand mobs. They do go into the white lines, which is going to be helpful, but Tyrion is coming for that booty, and you can see Noctilus gets in there, but just like the physical resist and the armor and the defensive stats are just so good. Invocation of the Head going down as well. Count Noctilus is now at about 755 HP. Tyrion prison shanks him once again for close to 500 damage there. And here, Count Noctilus is most likely going to go down to Tyrion as he just gets shanked. He does like a fall back and then fall forward kind of animation, which is pretty funny. But yeah, I definitely think this is how Tyrion should have been the whole time. So very, very cool to see him kind of performing, even against like tanky targets, right? So in the meantime, you can see the Lothran Sea Guard are going to be sitting and taking some pot shots at the carronades. Really need to shut those down because those are one of the few tools that Dov has to really shoot at my archers. Now that a lot of his missile troops are inundated and are forced into melee. The zombie pirate gunnery mobs are getting some decent crossfire here at the Pyramid Company, but Pyramid Company not doing bad fighting rotting Prometheans. And these crabby patties are definitely pretty good against AP infantry. Like they're really good in the Chaos matchup, pretty solid in the High Elf matchup too, I think, because they're durable against missiles, they're pretty good against infantry in general. High Elf Spearmen aren't going to be able to kill them quickly because of how high their armor and melee defense is, so I really do like the Promethean pick here from Dov plays. In the back, you can see the Lothran Sea Guard just kind of advancing, slowly picking things apart. The Spearmen, of course, winning against the zombie pirate deckhand mobs, of course, with a little bit of support from the Lothran Sea Guard. And the White Lions, I think they're also a decent choice because if he had gone with Depth Guard, which I think are actually really good in this matchup, if you bring like 2 or 3 just to kill Spearmen quickly, the White Lions would have been there to kind of at least have some armor piercing on them. And Depth Guard have been nerfed since Everchosen, so there is a little bit of a chance for units like White Lions to actually fight them now. So the Bounce of Power is coming in my favor a little bit for the first time here in the battle, and you can see that Tyrion is going to be helping cleave these zombies on the flank, and we're going to be jumping over to the Lamprey's Revenge, which are actually really damn tough to kill. That regeneration plus 63 melee defense, 120 armor, guys are no joke, but they are weak to fire. I always felt like Tyrion should do fire damage, but I mean, his sword is literally on fire, but I guess yes, he can shoot like a torrent of fire from it, so that's the kind of true cause there. But anyways, the Spearmen are going to be holding relatively firm, 6 leadership, kind of getting swarmed down by these zombie pirate deckhand mobs. They actually have really high weapon strength. These bad boys have like, what is it, like 29 weapon strength, which is, I think, 10 more than the Vampire Coast. So in the meantime, the Lampreys are going to be fighting Tyrion, and they're actually putting a bit of a whooping on him. So I do have to use Apotheosis, the feint and riposte here, to get the melee attack, physical resist, melee defense, just all that kind of juicy stat line. He's going to be piling in with the polearms as well, so anti-large, his heavy armor piercing hand cannons from the Lampreys are shooting Tyrion. So I was a little bit nervous here that I might lose Tyrion, but the rest of the battlefield is definitely going well. The last of the zombie pirate deckhand mobs here with the handguns, the Black Spot, are going to be taking heavy firepower from the Lothran Sea Guard, and they can't really trade back very effectively because those silver shields are just so damn good. So Lothran Sea Guard, I think, are going to be one of the best picks here. They're just so incredibly resilient, and even if they have to fight something melee, like let's say for example, I mean, what would Vampire Coast be sending? Probably like Felbats and Scurvy Dogs and things like that. So yeah, I think the Lothran Sea Guard, or even just regular archers, you can get like 2 Lothran Sea Guard and like 4 archers, and you're going to be able to out-trade in terms of missile play for sure. But Vampire Coast has plenty of answers. You can use mortars. They do, of course, have Scurvy Dogs. They have Felbats. A lot of similar tools to how the Vampire Counts deal with that. Or you could even go with old Queen Bess. Queen Bess could have been pretty scary, like sitting back here just, bombing away on my Lothran Sea Guard. I mean, there's a lot of options they have against High Elves. But again, this was actually Dov's first game in the early access, so we were both exploring, and neither of us really knew the matchup. But, I mean, obviously the High Elves have a pretty straightforward approach to dealing with the Vampire Coast. So that's going to be it for Tyrion and the boys. They're able to take down Count Noctilus, and I just wanted to really showcase this game because Tyrion, I think, is a lot better now that he has better armor piercing. He was able to really take it to Count Noctilus and do some great work, so I'm very happy with those changes. Archeon, the sometimes, maybe more often chosen now, also got those same buffs, so his AP is really good. His combat stats are really high. With Slayer of Kings, he can absolutely dumpster lords, which is how they should be, because, again, Tyrion, for example, doesn't really have any magic. I mean, he's a pretty linear lord, so he should be really good at what he's doing, like better than Count Noctilus, right? Count Noctilus is obviously very powerful. I think that he really shines on his Necrofex Colossus. And had he been on the Colossus this game, it would have been hard. I mean, I had no real true, aside from Tyrion, who he could have tar pitted with zombies, I didn't really have any like dedicated armor-piercing anti-large against him. So I think having him on the Colossus is really important. I like the polearm pick. I'm not a big fan of the zombie pirate gunnery mobs with the pistols in this matchup. I think you just go with like either the handguns or just go with like 2 Necrofex Colossus. I think that's really good for your ranged. Maybe substitute mortars in for carronades. Mortars are very good against high elf archers and things like that. So just kind of few minor tweaks. But again, it was Daub's first game. He was just kind of experimenting with things, and we just wanted to show you how powerful Tyrion can truly be. So again, very well played. My opponent, Daub Plays. Make sure to check out his YouTube channel if you haven't seen it. And we will see you guys next time. Take care.